Welcome back to the Chronicles of the King podcast, where we take a deep dive into the life and legacy of Elvis Presley. I'm Megan.
And I'm Tessa, and we are two 20-something Elvis fans dedicated to keeping his legacy alive with a research-based approach.
Whether you're a die-hard Elvis fan or simply curious about a man who changed the course of music and culture, you're in the right place.
We are here to unpack the myths, explore the music, and get to the heart of Elvis's enduring impact.
Every other week, we'll bring you research, untold stories, and fresh perspectives on Elvis's journey. From his humble beginnings to his legendary performances, we're here to shed light on it all.
So settle in for a podcast made with a lot of TLC for the man himself, one story at a time. Hi guys, welcome back. Today we have a very exciting episode for you. We're going to be talking to the iconic, the legendary Terry Blackwood, a member of the Blackwood Brothers family, and he sang with Elvis. What more is there to know? So Terry, if you would tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
I was born down in Choctaw County, Mississippi. No one's ever heard of it unless you live in Mississippi, and a lot of Mississippians haven't even heard of it. But very poor family. My family, the Blackwood brothers, were sharecroppers. They didn't even own the land that they tilled. Wow. But God had a special plan for that family, and there were three brothers in the Blackwood Brothers Quartet. And I know a quartet is four singers. I'll try to explain it real quickly if I can. The oldest brother, Roy, was born 9 years before my father, Doyle, was born. D-O-Y-L-E was my father. 9 years later, his younger brother, James, was born. So that was the three brothers, Roy, Doyle, and James. And by the time James was born, Roy had married, had a son named R.W. R.W., just R.W. I think that stood for Robert Winston. But anyway, that was the original quartet. Roy, Doyle, James, and R.W. Three brothers and a son. And my daddy used to be the MC for the group. When they start, well, actually, I'll just say that they never intended to sing. They never thought about it until they got together and started singing at night. You didn't have television back then. So after they worked during the day, they would sit around and just sing songs together. They decided, hey, we're pretty good, so let's try to put a group together. So they started singing around the little towns in Mississippi. And Daddy would introduce them and say, we are the only group you will ever see that's comprised of three brothers, two uncles, two nephews, a father, and a son.
Wow.
That's
you want to
awesome.
figure that one out?
Yeah. I'm trying to connect the dots there.
That was the original quartet. There were four little men traveling around Mississippi, singing in churches and all kinds of places. They decided, actually, they were given an opportunity to go on a radio station in Kosciuszko, and they started doing early morning radio broadcasts in Kosciuszko, get in their car and drive to a concert that night in Mississippi, do the concert, and drive back home, and just in time to sleep a few hours and get up and do another live radio broadcast the next morning. So my daddy and all of the brothers were really hardworking men, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of that family.
And how did you get into singing with the group, and how did you just get into singing in general? Obviously, you were brought up with this culture and this close-knit family, it sounds like. But what was your journey into becoming a musician?
When I was 7 years old, my father put me at the piano and said, you will practice because, and he said, you got talent and I want you to practice piano 30 minutes a day. So I reluctantly agreed because there was a great incentive for me to practice. If I didn't, I would get a spanking.
Yeah.
So that was good incentive for me back then. So I started taking classical piano music. I studied classical piano for 12, 13 years. I had no intentions of ever singing because I at that point, my voice hadn't changed, and I was concentrating more on the piano.
Mhm.
And when I even took piano all the way through high school and college. But when my voice changed, I decided that I'm a fairly good singer, so I started singing in church. And our church was a very musical church, First Assembly of God. That's actually the church that Elvis started going to. In
Seems
fact,
like
I
a
think
lot of
Elvis started going
musicians
there.
Yeah.
came
What's
from
that?
First
Interesting.
Assembly. It seems like a lot of musicians came through 1st
Mhm.
Assembly. So music, you know, Jerry Lee Lewis as well is another name
Yep.
that's coming to mind.
Yes.
Music must have been so important in that congregation.
Mhm.
Right. But anyway, I started singing in church, and I concentrated more on my voice after that happened because I was starting to get some people who would come up and say, "We really enjoyed your singing." So I continued on the piano and continued to sing. And after a year and a half at the University of Memphis, I got a call from J.D. Sumner and James Blackwood and asked me to join the New Stamps Quartet.
Mhm.
And I did that for a year and a half. Um, got tired of that, went back and finished college at University of Memphis. 2 months later, I got a call from Joe Muscayo and asked me if I'd like to join the Imperials. So I said, let me think
Okay.
about it and pray about it. About 2, 3 weeks later, I said, okay, I'll do it. So I drove to Nashville and joined the group.
Mhm.
And let me think, that would have been 67. And 2 years later, the door opened for us to work with Elvis Presley. So it's been
Wow.
a pretty exciting life for me.
Yeah.
It sounds
That's
like
awesome.
it. I think we wanted to jump a little bit back and going like talking about kind of like the gospel, singing like the roots that you have there. Um, One of the questions that Tesla came up with was, do you think that gospel music requires a different skill set than popular music?
I think all music is pretty much based on the same chord structures.
Mhm.
I think country and gospel are very similar in their approach to chord progressions
Mhm.
and modulations. I think classical is a totally different animal. I was not, I actually did some opera in college, but
Really?
I appreciate classical music, but I'm not really that fond of it, to be honest with
Me
you.
neither. I get that. You have to sing it. It's like in the curriculum, you have to do it. And
Mhm.
it's
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
some people love it. And I'm like, I don't love it that
Mm.
much.
No, but I think the basics of music are the same in every genre of music, but gospel concentrates more on, of course, on the lyric content of the songs.
Mhm.
But the difference is that the gospel is presented in the gospel music, where in country, it's a good old boy, maybe a beer drinker,
Mhm.
who maybe goes out on Saturday night, has a few drinks, and gets up and goes to church on Sunday morning.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
But I mean, there are a lot of similarities. In fact, a lot of the country singers who've been very successful grew up in church as well.
Mhm.
Yep.
Dolly Parton,
I was
we
gonna
just went
say.
to her musical recently, and she
Mhm.
was raised in church as well. So
Absolutely.
Yep.
yeah, so a lot of the country singers back then would ask the
Mhm.
Imperials or some other gospel group to back them on their album because they knew it would be a great
Mhm.
sound backing them up.
Yep.
So we did a lot of backup vocals for other country artists back then.
Wow.
And so this like blending of genres, obviously this is something that Elvis is
Mhm.
super known for. The invention of rock and roll, or just kind of the big bang
Popularization.
of rock and
Yeah.
roll, yeah, popularization of it,
Hmm.
was a blending of genres. Do you think that, like, how did that feel if you came from this gospel tradition? How did it feel to then sort of be
Mhm.
singing more popular styles? Like vocally, was it
Yeah.
any different for you? Or was it like, I'm kind of bringing my gospel sound into this other genre?
I think Elvis's background was similar to mine in that he was raised in church, and he was raised singing the songs of the church. But his actually his introduction to music was he wanted to go in the studio and do a song for his mother. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
He loved his mother Gladys, and he went in Sun Studios one day and said, I want to sing a song for my mother. And so he recorded the song. At that time, Sam Phillips, the engineer and the owner of Sun Studios, said, boy, I've been looking for a singer, a white guy who sounds black, and I think you're the guy. So Elvis said, okay, I'll try it. So he put a song down in front of him, and Elvis sang it for him. Actually, he finished the song and gave it to his mother, came back in the studio, and he had heard this song called Hound Dog that Big Mama Thornton had recorded. You remember the song Hound Dog?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And she had recorded it. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. And so Elvis heard it, and Sam said, would you be interested in doing that? So he did, and he upped the tempo about 3 times. He came out with the same song, Hound Dog, and it was a hit for him. I just exploded on the pop scene, the rock and roll scene. And so I've said to people who've asked me, I don't think Elvis really sought to be a star. I think stardom found him. I think it overwhelmed him that so many people were gravitated to his style and his singing. And so I think, to be honest with you, I don't think Elvis really thought anything about ever making a career of rock and roll music. But it
He
just
wanted
so
to
happened
be gospel quartets, right? Like he wanted to be
his desire was to be a gospel quartet singer.
Mm-hmm.
But when he hit the radio stations with this song, and it immediately took a liking to it, his whole life changed. And from there, his career in rock and roll music overwhelmed him, and it's almost like he was destined to be a rock and roll star. And the irony is, I don't think he really sought that at the beginning.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to do something. I don't know if he thought it was going to be rock and roll, but he was trying to do something for sure.
No, I think he really loved his mother so much. He just wanted to sing a song for her, and all of a sudden, he's singing songs for the whole world.
Right,
quite a change.
Yep.
So his life changed a lot with the recording of, That's All Right, and all those early Sun recordings like Hound Dog, like you mentioned. So how did your career, what was different what was your career before you met Elvis? And then when you first met Elvis, what was that like? And was that like a big change? And then how was your career totally different after that? Or was it similar?
When I joined the Imperials, I was replacing a man named Jake Hess, who was quite popular in the Southern gospel business. And the Imperials, it was actually called Jake Hess and the Imperials. And when they lost Jake, they had about 80 dates canceled the first year. The first year, we almost went under because we didn't have enough dates. But we finished our first album called New Dimensions, and by the time we did the second one, we had developed a pretty good following on our own, and we're becoming quite successful as just the Imperials. And so the group, the Imperials, had achieved a lot of success just on the strength of our own ingenuity and our own talents and abilities. And I think Elvis heard New Dimensions and our second album called Imperials Now, and he's the one who called us and said, guys, would you be interested in joining me in Vegas? So, I mean, we could have made it on our own without him, but that opened up a whole new field for us, a whole new world, and we jumped at it. There's an interesting story about that. Joe Mascao, our manager, was in the office early one day, and he got there before the rest of us had gotten to the office.
Okay.
It was in May of '69, and the phone rang, and it was Elvis Presley. And he said, "Hey, Elvis, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing fine, man." He said, "Hey, I've been listening to your albums, and I love what I'm hearing, especially New Dimensions and Imperials now." He said, "I've already got the TCB band and the Sweet Inspirations, and I'd love to have the Imperials join me. Would you be interested?" Well, Joe thought about it a minute. He said, "Could I ask the guys, Elvis?" He put the phone down, looked around the empty room, because none of us were there yet. He got back on the phone. He said, "Elvis, good news. They all nodded their heads yes." So it wasn't long after that we flew to Los Angeles and began our rehearsals for the opening of the show in July 31 of 1969.
Wow. So you said you weren't there when the initial phone call came in, but once you heard the news, what was your thought process? What were the thoughts going through your head? And when you went to Los Angeles, was that the first time that you met Elvis?
No, I had met Elvis many years before that. That's another story. My in the mid-50s, my father was asked to run for a state legislature in Tennessee, in Nashville, and so he decided he would do it. About 2 weeks after that, they said, "We're having a big parade down Main Street, Memphis, and we'd love to have you and your family join us to kind of introduce yourselves to the Memphis audience." Well, we didn't have a nice car. My daddy had left the group, and so he was on a salary. So he decided, well, I'll call Elvis. So because Elvis knew the Blackwood Brothers Quartet, but Daddy hadn't met him yet. So we went out there. I rode out there with Daddy, and that was my first introduction to him, and got to meet him. And he said, "Elvis, could I borrow your car for a Sunday parade?"
Yeah.
He said, "Sure, man, you can have it." So Sunday afternoon, we rode down Main Street. We were the only family there that was riding in a pink Cadillac.
That's awesome.
Wow. Doing it in style.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think he always had an affinity for the Blackwood Brothers because when he was young and poor, the Blackwood Brothers were older but very successful. I think he was drawn to their style of music, and his dream was to sing in the Blackwood Brothers.
Wow.
It must have been surreal for him to like then have be at such a point that he'd grown up hearing the sounds of like your family, and then to be at a point that he could then sing with someone from this family and all these records that he so greatly admired. It must have been, it's hard to imagine. We think of Elvis so in the white jumpsuit, he is the king of rock and roll, but it must have been a very humbling moment for him to be like, wow, these are people I've admired my whole life and I'm singing with them.
Well, it was also pretty awesome for us, and humbling too, because I had never been to Vegas before,
right?
And I wasn't used to that lifestyle, but but it was new and exciting for me. I enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed it, and he was always very respectful of us, and loved what the Imperials brought to him. We brought to him. I don't want to sound braggadocious, but at that time, the Imperials were the best group that he could have gotten.
Absolutely.
And he wanted the best group he could find.
Absolutely.
And so you're saying about rehearsals, and so was that the first time during those rehearsals for the opening night in Vegas? Was that the first time you sang with Elvis, or had you kind of sang with him before? What was that like?
We had done we had a pretty extensive rehearsals in Los Angeles, about 2 weeks, about 8 hours a day. And but we had I hadn't done too many recordings with Elvis up until I joined the Imperials. But after that, we did quite a few songs in the studio with him. But yeah, there's quite a history of our association with Elvis and the Imperials.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so this is a burning question I have that Megan's going to laugh at me for it. But
She's asked so many people this question.
I asked Estelle Brown this question. Like I just asked a lot of people this question.
Mhm.
So I feel that people say Elvis couldn't read music, period.
Mhm.
I feel as a musician that I don't think he could have sat down and read music and played it on the piano or sang it, sight singing, that kind of thing. I think he could read music to the extent that he could talk about it or understand it. Do you agree? Or is it like he couldn't read a note at all? He had no idea what was going on. He just felt it. Was there a certain, he understood something? Like I hear him say, like, let's do this in C major or F or what, like he had to understand to some extent is my argument. But people say
I think
he
had
couldn't read a note.
He had a basic knowledge of music, but not very extensive. I don't think he could read music at all, but I think he had a good ear for what he wanted to do and where he wanted us to sing. For instance, when we were in Los Angeles working on songs, he'd say he had this concept of what he wanted the song to be, and he would say, "Guys, sing here. Don't sing here. I want the Sweets to sing here." But as far as being an accomplished musician, he wasn't. But I mean, he never studied piano. I don't think he studied piano. He knew the basics of piano, the C and F, the keys, but I'm not sure that he had a very extensive knowledge of the piano or music. But more importantly, he had a heart and a head that knew what he wanted to do with his voice.
Right.
And that far exceeds what a lot of people can learn from a book or from a teacher.
Definitely.
Does that answer your question, Tessa? I mean, she's asked everybody this question.
Well, I want to clarify. A lot of people spend many, many years in classical music, as I did.
Me too.
Studying the notes. Every note has to be just right. And it has to be perfect, which is never perfect.
Right.
But Elvis wasn't a perfect. He wanted to be perfect, but he knew he wasn't. But he knew what he wanted to do with his music and his voice, and he knew what he wanted to hear. And that's far greater than someone who has an extensive knowledge of the piano or of classical music.
Definitely. I think, you hear it in his voice I'm not saying he needs to have that knowledge. I think it's just interesting when people are like, it's almost like people say he couldn't understand if he looked at a piece of music, but I'm sure he could understand to some extent. The notes go up, you go up, the notes go down, you go down, that kind of basic stuff. But, it's what's most important is how he took that basic knowledge and did something entirely from his heart. Especially, I think you hear it the most personally, I think, in the gospel recordings. I don't know if you would agree with that you hear.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, you can sense in his passion, you can sense how much he loved singing gospel music, and he loved having the Imperials back him up. We were his backup group for the "He Touched Me" record, by the way.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a little story about that. In 1969, we decided to do the third album, "Love Is a Thing," and on that album was "He Touched Me," along with "I've Got Confidence," "Reach Out to Jesus," and one or two others that he did. But he said, "Guys, I love that He Touched Me song, and I love 3 or 4 songs from that record. Would you back me up on my gospel album?" So we said, of course we would. So we did. And he went in the studio and cut actually my arrangement of "He Touched Me."
Awesome.
And his was even better than ours. And it was released on his "He Touched Me" record. and he won a Grammy for that third gospel release. And we didn't win it for ours, so he did something right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I always find a fact, that when people say what's something, you know, they know I know a lot about Elvis, and they say what's something about Elvis I wouldn't know. And that's what I love to say, is that, you know, you would think he won Grammys for rock and roll, and all his
Not
Grammys
one.
were for gospel, right? And
Yeah.
so
He didn't win one. He didn't win one record, one album for his rock and roll music.
Yep.
But
And I think it's like,
think
that's where his heart is, you know, in the gospel.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is Elvis took a song like "Bridge Over Troubled Waters" that was made popular by Simon and Garfunkel.
Yep.
And he took it and covered it and made it bigger, far bigger than Simon and Garfunkel's cut.
Yep.
And there were several songs like that that Elvis took from an artist who had made a hit on it and made it even bigger in his own records.
Absolutely. Okay. I wanted to shift gears a little bit because you mentioned Vegas, and this is one of my favorite, don't get me started, it's one of my favorite eras of Elvis is, you know, his Vegas residency in 1969. And you mentioned there was not a lifestyle that you were accustomed to. I was just wondering if you could take us through like what a typical day was in 1969 in Vegas.
We opened in July 31, 1969 to, of course, it was just electric. And Elvis was very nervous, very uncertain that he would be received well, because he had come to Vegas about 9 or 10 years before that, when he had just become successful and the people didn't like him. The seniors, he was downtown Vegas, and he hadn't established himself as the king of rock and roll at that time. And so, but when he wasn't received well, he went back home, and I think he was very downtrodden over that. So in 1969, backstage, he was very nervous and very uncertain. We had to encourage him to go out there and do your best. He said, man, I don't know if they're going to like me or not. I just don't know. So when the music started and he walked out there, every flash bulb in the building went off, and the screams were deafening.
I mean, I could imagine. I'd be right there.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of the Hollywood stars were there. Sammy Davis Jr., Clark Gable. Oh, Sammy Davis was right down front. Did you know that? He was right down the stage. And
didn't Elvis give him a ring or something? I don't know if that was the
night,
but it was on one
Sammy
night.
Davis Jr. was down front, and in the middle of the show, Elvis walked down to where Sammy was sitting, and he had, of course, Elvis had a ring almost every finger except his thumbs.
Me too. Taking note.
He took off one of those big rings and gave him to Sammy, and Sammy just went ballistic. He was just so excited that Elvis would give him something. But that was the kind of night it was. It was just electric and exciting, and a night I'll never forget. But Elvis's desire always had been to please his audience and to please the people that came to see him, and that's what he did.
Now,
and like when you came off the stage, what was that like? Like, was it still electric atmosphere? Like, what was the evening, the later part? Did you guys go?
Well, I didn't even answer your question. After the show, we do an 8:00 show. Then we'd have a 2-hour break, and then we do a midnight show, which would last till 2:00 in the morning.
Wow!
Jeez.
Not every night we would be invited up to the penthouse. Now, most nights we weren't going, but occasionally we would go up there, and we were going so seldom that one night after the second show, Elvis asked Joe. He said, Joe, have I offended you guys or something? He says, why don't you ever go up to the penthouse? And he said, well, because we weren't invited. We would go if we were invited. He said, well, you're always invited. So we started going more regularly after that. But after the second show, we wouldn't go every night, but we would go up to the penthouse, we'd stand around, and there were little snacks that we could eat, and Cokes or Sprite or whatever you wanted to drink. First thing that would happen, Elvis would get out of his jumpsuit and into something to get into his karate outfit.
Yeah.
And he would come out, not every night, but quite often he would give us his karate demonstration, and his the guy he would beat up was Charlie Hodge, and he would get out there and do his karate moves on Charlie and beat him up pretty badly. And after that, everybody would applaud, and he would stand around the piano and we'd sing gospel music. And that could last till 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning till he got sleepy and went to bed, and we'd go home.
Yeah.
But one particular night, we were there with Mama Cass of the Mamas and the Papas. We were standing around the piano singing, and we got to the song Amazing Grace, and we started singing Amazing Grace. Before we started, we had sung several gospel songs, and Mama turned over to Elvis. We heard her tell Elvis, she said, "Elvis, why do you do all these gospel songs?" So we started singing song after song after song, and the more we sang, the more emotional she got. And by the time we finished Amazing Grace, there was a kind of a hush in the penthouse. She looked over at Elvis and she said, "Elvis, I am so sorry." She says, "Now I know why you sing all these gospel songs." She said, "I haven't sung that song since I was a little girl, and it means so much to me. Thank you for that." So that's what gospel music does to people who were raised in the church and got away from it.
Wow. There must have been so many special moments with Elvis, like you meant with Mama Cass. One thing that I think stood out, so you were with Elvis from 69 to 71, am I correct on that? All right, so during 1970, they were doing That's the Way It Is. How is filming That's the Way It Is? How did that kind of maybe shake things up in like the typical day-to-day of working with Elvis?
Well, because some of the best parts of that are like the behind the scenes rehearsal parts.
Yeah.
And it's like it might have been weird, I'm assuming, to like be filmed in your kind of warm-up routine, or was it like fine?
But it's more intimate, I guess.
There was really no difference in our approach to it. We knew that we were being filmed, but we didn't pose or we didn't do anything differently than we would have done if we weren't filming. We sang our song, we did our rehearsals, just like we would have done if the cameras weren't there. And we just had cameras there filming everything. And we had no idea that this would be seen 50, 60 years later.
Right.
Oh, we're still loving watching it.
Yeah. Well, I think, do you know of another artist that this many years after his passing is still so popular and successful? I don't know of any.
No. And new people,
But I think
we're both young, and I came to be an Elvis fan through the Elvis movie, and Megan has been a fan a bit longer since she was a teenager. And it's just so interesting to see how it keeps capturing people, how he keeps capturing people and getting people to learn about him. You know, we both, she has a book club. I've read like over 50 books. Like we really want to know as much about him as possible, but there's no other artist I can think of who has been gone longer than they were here, who keeps doing this and keeps getting new people interested. I mean, it's something special for sure.
You're right. I mean, I just came back from Memphis for Elvis Week. There's oh, good. There were, then you'll notice there were a lot of very young people, a lot of young people who were there, who are just now discovering Elvis, and they're becoming Elvis fans now. So I think his music will go on for years to come. I mean, 2 years from now will be what, 50 years?
50.
50, yeah.
We'll be there.
So I mean, I and how many Elvis impersonators are there?
So many.
Every other person we saw there was an Elvis.
Every time we were
impersonator.
in the guest house, and I'm like, wow, that guy has dyed black hair and sideburns. I wonder what he does. So funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen little 4 feet Elvis guys. I've seen tall ones. I've
Charlie
seen
Hodge
everyone.
height.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So
So I
talking
guess-
a little bit
yeah.
about his music and the impact of his music, what was your favorite
Mhm.
song to perform live with him? And then why was that your favorite?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I have one favorite. Of course, I loved How Great Thou Art because I was raised singing that. But I also liked The Wonder of You. I loved his ballads. And of course, we always sang Sweet Spirit. But Elvis had a lot of songs. Bridge Over Troubled Waters. There's so many that I think became crowd favorites that still are sung to this day. And I love them all. But I especially love The Wonder of You. I think it's a great
Good
song.
one. That's a good one.
Underrated for sure.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. So then talking a little bit more about Elvis's impact, what, working with Elvis, what kind of challenges did Elvis maybe pose to you that maybe encouraged you to expand your musicality?
Well, his approach to music was broader than ours. We had been confined to gospel music, but I had tried to move the guys more into a more progressive contemporary mode,
Okay.
and we were able to do that. But I think when you're in music, there are no limits. You can do whatever your mind or your heart or your ear tells you to do, and I think working with Elvis only reinforced what I termed is the broad spectrum of what I call music, because it's more than gospel music, it's more than rock and roll, it's more than country music. It's the basics of all of music that touches hearts and encourages people throughout their lives to be better than they are.
Wow.
And so were there any times that Elvis asked you to do something and sing something that you're like, I'm not doing this? Or like it didn't work and you wanted to, he always had a good ear for it?
He never asked us to do any song or anything that would compromise us. He was that respectful of what we did and the careers that we'd established. So always very respectful to us, and he always loved singing with us. It was just, and of course, we love singing with him.
He has something very special that with he can blend his voice. Like his voice is so unique, but when you listen to a lot of the gospel recordings, and I know there was a issue, they wanted the mix to be different. He wanted the mix so that his voice was blended, and RCA wanted the mix so that his voice was boosted. And I think I love when I hear the live performances and you can hear his voice just blending in with everybody else's. It's like that is the harmony that he's trying to do. I just love that.
Yeah, I think his steep traditions of Southern gospel music stayed with him throughout his life, and that's why he loved having a gospel quartet on the stage with him.
Absolutely.
But I mean, when he would sing alone, it was even stronger. So I think it was just an expansion of his musical interest and an expansion of what we thought we could do. So I think he made us better than we thought we were. And I think we helped him become bigger and better than he thought he was.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to,
those recordings, you hear that sound, the wall of sound of everybody. Like it just, it boosts the songs to a new level. It makes the recorded version seem almost like they pale in comparison to when you have this full orchestra and the full sound of the choirs and the voices behind him. It's totally different.
Yeah, he had a concept of where he wanted almost every note in the chord covered by the Sweet Inspirations and the Imperials, and he had the TCB band, best band you could buy, and then he had a 40-piece orchestra. Then he had a soprano. Started out with Millie Kirkham, and then later with Kathy Westmoreland. But I mean, he had a wall of sound that no other entertainer had, and that's what he wanted to hear, and that's what he wanted to give to the audience.
Wow.
Love it.
All right, and one of my other questions that I had is, so Tessa mentioned I love reading about Elvis, and I, read about Elvis from different perspectives. The one thing that I was curious about, was there a difference between like Elvis on stage, Elvis in the recording studio, or Elvis like up in his suite just singing with a group?
I think the real Elvis was somewhat insecure and shy.
Mm-hmm.
But also he was, I think when he got in front of an audience, he gave an image or impression that he was very cocky and outgoing. But I think the audience's responses encouraged him to be more than he really was. But I think the real Elvis was a little bit insecure. And when we get the Penthouse, he was more subdued and very, just wanted to be one of the guys. And of course, he was the boss, but he never came across as bossy to us. He wanted to just be one of the guys. He wanted us to sing with him. And of course, we were happy to do that. So I don't know if I could say more about that, except to say that I think most men who are very talented and very creative tend to be a little insecure because they're hoping that this new venture of whatever Elvis became was going to be accepted. And so the fact that it was even, I think it excited him and surprised him, because I don't think he really expected to be as big of a star as he became.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that kind of like your interpretation of how you saw it firsthand.
And it makes sense from what I've read and what I understand too, of that, if he was so nervous every time before he performed, and yet he was this big person on the stage and had a lot of, bravado, and that really he was not like that it was like almost a front that he had to put on in order to do it and connect. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the big stars back then had a far greater ego than Elvis had.
Yeah.
And they weren't near as successful and as big as Elvis became.
Absolutely. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you sang with the Stamps, right? At some point.
I did.
So I was just thinking, it was crossing my mind. We were just at Graceland for Elvis Week. We went in January for Elvis's 90th birthday. So it's fresh in my mind. At the 90 for 90 exhibit, they show the last record on Elvis's record player from his bedroom when he passed. And it's a demo from the Stamps. Are you singing on that record, or was that after your time?
I don't know what the demo was. Well, I was in the group. I was in the Stamps before the Stamps backed Elvis. So
gotcha.
It might have been the Stamps after I left. I'm not sure. Because I don't know the record. Do you know the song?
I don't know. It says like Untitled. I have a picture of it somewhere, but it's just a demo that they say is the final record he was listening to. But it would have been, I think, from 77. So I was just curious.
Stamps. That would have been the Stamps after I left.
Okay. I was just curious. I was like, that would have been crazy.
Yeah.
That would have stuck with me. So can you tell us a little bit, it's a little sad now, but about the last time you worked with Elvis and the last time that you saw Elvis?
It's been so long ago, I can't recall when the last time I worked with him. We had left Elvis and we're working with Jimmy Dean. Why we did that, I don't know. It wasn't my decision. But we would, even after we left, we would occasionally go over to see Elvis at the International and go up to the Penthouse and sing with him. But I can't recall any particular nights or anything that stood out that made it noteworthy to me, but we never lost our friendship with Elvis. In fact, we were working with Jimmy Dean one night at the Landmark Hotel, and Elvis was over at the International. I think he had just closed his shows. He came over to see us, and in the middle of the Jimmy Dean show, we would do 3 or 4 songs in the show, but we'd already done our set. And there was just a moment of silence in Jimmy's show, and he said, so this voice yelled out from the back of the building, "Let the Imperials sing." And Jimmy kind of ignored him and went on with his show. A little bit later, "Let the Imperials sing." So he said, "Okay, let the Imperials sing. Here they are." And that showed you that Elvis never lost his love for the group, and we always appreciate that about him.
Yeah. I'm assuming you recognize that voice, though. Am I right?
Oh yeah, we knew who it was.
You're like, I know that.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
So if you could sing just one more song or have one more session, what song would you sing with Elvis today?
I don't, it would have to be a gospel song, probably Amazing Grace. He loved ending his little sessions with us up there in the penthouse with Amazing Grace. And we would do all the verses, and that song really speaks a lot to me right now.
I love that.
Yeah. All I know is when you all sang Amazing Grace, we were at the music salute at Elvis Week. I mean, we're all just sitting there with chills because we're just imagining like this is the exact sound that Elvis heard in the penthouse like you were talking about.
Yes.
And especially when we heard "That's All Right" and we heard "That's All Right," we were like, "Whoa, there it is!" Like that's it. We all got chills. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you: have you ever heard that big of a sound anywhere else than what you heard that night?
No,
I haven't. And that it doesn't say. I'm not saying that we're better than anybody. I'm just saying it's uniquely different from anything else you will hear.
Well, like I like
if you like it, if you like it,
you mentioned "Bridge Over Troubled Water." Yeah, I love how you mentioned "Bridge Over Troubled Water." That because I really can hear the difference between the original recording and then the version Elvis like kind of puts together. It's an entirely different song, and it doesn't make the original any worse or anything. It's still a beautiful song, but it's entirely different, and he always put his own spin on things.
That's a very good observation, because I think a lot of his hits they were covers for other hits, but he expanded them and made them totally his own, and I think that was what was so special about Elvis. Every song that he covered, he made it bigger and better than the original.
Yeah. Like there's some story of him saying, "I don't want to sing my way unless I'm going to do it right." Like, like, I'm not going to sing it unless it's better than Sinatra. And he did a very good job. It's just funny.
Oh, he really did. He really did. He really,
All right. Well, I guess like our kind of like wrap up thing is if you could pass down one piece of musical advice that you learned from your time with Elvis, what would it be?
Well, I would say if you have any abilities in music, it would have to be exceptional, because it's very difficult in the music business nowadays to even make a living at it. I would get a side job.
Yeah. I work at a barbecue place. I get it.
But if you have any abilities in music, pursue them. But also realize that it's not as easy as it used to be, and get something else that you might be interested in doing, and maybe do 2 things. Do the music as your fun thing, and do your other thing as your serious thing. And if it happens in music, great. You can go out and make a living at it, but it may not, because the odds are that it's not going to happen. I don't mean to discourage anyone, but it's very, very difficult now. much more difficult than it used to be years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a dream, pursue it. Don't ever let anybody talk you out of your dream.
I love that thing. I have a book of some of the Elvis's writings in, different spiritual books and things like that. And there's one that he writes that he says, God loves you best when you sing. And that to me is like, I just love that he wrote that. I don't know. It just came to my mind.
I think that's very perceptive, because I think in heaven, we're going to be singing a whole lot. And I think down here is just a little precursor of what it'll be like in heaven. I think we'll be singing all the time up there. And I think Elvis is right there now looking down on us.
Yeah. Yep. One of our friends that we were just at Elvis Week with, people always say the final songs Elvis sang were Unchained Melody and Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain out in the racquetball house. And she said something that struck me. And it's kind of like, I feel that Elvis's purpose on this earth was to sing and to give us his voice. And she said, but I don't think that was the last thing he ever sang. I think he was probably singing all the way up to his bedroom. He was singing the whole time, but he was probably humming something to himself or singing a little song, just going up the steps, going upstairs, and just in every moment, he's that kind of person. And I that made me so emotional to think, he didn't stop singing at all. He's still singing.
Yeah, and I'm still listening. When I'm in my car, I'm singing. I'm singing in my car. So I think music was Elvis's life. And I think he expressed it so beautifully with his life and his passion for music. And it was always such an honor to be a part of his life and his career. And I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it.
And we're so fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to talk to you. And I know as a singer myself, it's like so amazing to speak to someone who sang with Elvis. Like, that's crazy. So we're very appreciative.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We also want to say, congratulations. You and along with the other Imperials were inducted into Graceland's Hall of Legends during Elvis Week.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't know, does that mean you have to be old to be a legend?
No, I don't think so. I don't hope. Maybe we'll get in the legends. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you're much younger than me, so keep going, and you never know what will happen.
Well, we'll be back to Graceland. Will you be there in January, or are you going to go next Elvis Week? Do you know yet?
I don't know. I have to be invited before I go.
That's true.
So I'll have to leave that up to the people at Graceland, but we hope we can make it.
I'm sure.
Well, we hope so.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you too.
That's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Chronicles of the King podcast.
If you love what you heard, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps bring the King's story to life.
You can follow us on social media at the Chronicles of the King for updates, upcoming series, and more. We'd love to hear your input and any of your favorite Elvis moments.
Until next time, keep rocking and rolling, and we'll be back soon with more stories from Elvis's extraordinary life.
With TLC, we'll see you on the next episode of the Chronicles of the King.